India's leap into the future. Join me as we envision India in 2047. But to truly appreciate that future, we will begin our journey in the year 1947. 1947, my mother was just 2 years old. My father was 7. It was a tough time to be born in India. Why? 75% of Indians were in the farming area, but we could still not feed ourselves. We were short of food, we were short of milk, we were even short of running water. Life expectancy was 32 years at that time. There were how many engineering colleges? 27. How many management colleges? 0. Because we didn't have to manage anything. There was only farming. So this was the start which we got, 1947. And we're now looking at what are we going to be doing in 2047. Now, 1960, my mother turned 15. She was the topper in Madras state at that time, but colleges were few. Money was very tight, so she didn't go to college. She went to a job. So she took a job. So that generation, they worked hard and they tried to give us a future, which we all have today, and which gives us that, leap forward. And that's what we're going to be looking at. So by 1960, in the 60s, the 5 IITs were set up by then. The 2 IIMs, Lucknow and Kolkata, Ahmedabad and Kolkata were up and running by then. And we had made a start. So we, of course, the green revolution, white revolution had also begun. We were becoming self-sufficient in food, milk, and also technology had started by then. 1960, India built its first computer called the TIFRAC in Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. 1960, how many countries had made a computer by then? Maybe 5, 6. We were the 6th or 7th. 1963, we were making germanium semiconductors. Germanium was what was used before silicon to make semiconductors. We were one of the first countries to do that. Again, number 5 or 6 in the world. We also, we created a lot of talent. Who was the father of Pentium? Vinod Dham, Indian. Who was the father of fiber optics? Kapani, again Indian. So we were at a point where we were developing a lot of technology and we had a lot of talent in some of these areas. But today, are we a hardware or a semiconductor nation? We're not. But there was one thing which we did very well, which was in 1962, the IBM 1620 computer landed in Kanpur airport. Then from Kanpur airport, it was to go to IIT Kanpur. The roads were bad, so they decided not to take it on a truck because the computer was very fragile. So they said, okay, let's take it on a bullock cart. We'll put special tires for it. So special tires were put on the bullock cart. The 1620 computer was loaded onto the bullock cart and it was taken from Kanpur airport to IIT Kanpur. At IIT Kanpur, there were these professors like Professor Rajaraman, Professor Mahabala, who started teaching computers to people. They started hands-on courses on what can this computer do. So who were their first students? So there was a person called F.C. Kohli. Does anybody know who is F.C. Kohli? So we'll learn about F.C. Kohli now. So F.C. Kohli was in Tata Electric Company at that time, and he along with his management came and learned, okay, what is this computer that is here? How can it help industry? And he and his management team sat through these classes at IIT Kanpur, and they learnt what is this computer. And in 1969, he became the first CEO of TCS. So that was how TCS was born. 1966, IIT Kanpur started these courses on computing. 1967, who lands up there in the second batch of their MTech program? Narayan Murthy. So he is a student there, he learns what is computing, what can we do with it. 1981, he goes and founds Infosys. So in software, yes, we created talent, but what did we do additionally? We also created these Indian companies like TCS, like Infosys, which actually built a local industry in India. And that enabled a lot of us, like I entered college in 1987. By then, at least I knew that, okay, if I want to stay back in India, I could become a software engineer, okay. But there were other things which we missed, we just talked about semiconductors, right? Semiconductors, when did Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company start? 1987. Today they make 90% of all the high-end chips. But before that, in 1984, we had set up in Chandigarh Semiconductor Limited. Of course, we didn't realize what the value of semiconductors were. Similarly, in 1978, who was the competitor to Apple? HCL. HCL had made microcomputers here in India, again one of the first few in the world to have made these microcomputers, but we did not realize the value of any of those things and we didn't take it up. Of course, a lot of this talent, as I said, went and spread out and built other, these economies in other places. But in software, as I said, we did something special, so we built this local industry, we enabled startups, we enabled people like Narayan Murthy, F.C. Kohli to build an industry in India. And that is how the story of our software industry started, where we enabled this. And by the year 2000, there was something called Y2K. I don't know how many people know, but computers did not, the date change from 1999, 31st December to 2000, January 1st, that date change happened to be 00 and computers were supposed to, just fail at that point. So this was an opportunity for all the engineers that we had created to go and fix. And that's how the story of all our, software companies and all the work that we were doing started. And today, what are we? We are having the largest number of software engineers anywhere in the world. So this is the base now. This is the base. 2024, we have this huge workforce, and we now, during independence, we had 27 engineering colleges. Now how many do we have? 9,000. We had 0 management schools. How many do we have now? Around 5,000. So now, the managers, you, for example, are here to figure out, how do we take this forward? We have all this talent. We are producing so many engineers and managers every year. How are we going to take global leadership in all these areas? So I work in the field of quantum computing now. Before this, I was working in AI. And as all of you know, today AI is something which was sitting in the labs before, but now what has happened? It's come in front of all of us. We all use AI today, right? All of us use AI in all our daily activities. A lot of people, even my kids, now use AI to do some of their homework or do their assignments or things like that. But what has this enabled us to do? This has now enabled us to now think more beyond, what we were capable of. So for example, if you were not a writer, you can actually write good stories now. If you have the thought and you put that thought into the AI thing, it can create these stories for you. If you have an idea for a movie, you can now feed it into that and you can become a creator of these movies. So what has this enabled us to do is that it has enabled us to now think beyond what I could do, before this happened, to something which has no boundaries. It's boundless now. You're able to go beyond your specific skills to acquire new skills and do bigger things. Now, quantum computing. So what is quantum computing? In a very simple way, it is, in classical computing, classical computers, the unit of computation is zeros and ones. In quantum computing, the unit of computation is zeros and ones and everything in between. Okay, so, and that enables us to do more powerful things. Okay, so just like the AI chips of today, now we are having the quantum chips which are acting as accelerators for certain jobs that you can do. So now, what is the role of you, the managers, in all of this? So number one, we have all this talent sitting in India, right? But how do we provide that vision? How do we provide the milestones? How do we provide the roadmap for different industries, whether it is pharma, whether it is logistics, whether it is healthcare, whether it is climate change? In all of these areas, what is that roadmap and vision that you can provide using tools like AI, using tools like quantum computing, using tools like cloud computing, blockchain, all of these? The goal now is, we have all this talent, we are producing every year millions of engineers now. How do we use this talent, how do we channel it to produce industry in India? So semiconductor, hardware, we were good, we produced talent, but we did not create a local industry or a local pathway to utilize that talent. So what happened? That talent had to fly away, it had to go outside of India, and it could not contribute to the growth of Indian economy. But software, we were able to build these local companies which enabled a local ecosystem to come up and growth to happen. So now what we need is, in areas like AI, quantum, cloud, in all of these, we need to build that local industry so that our economy can grow. It can provide employment for all the millions of engineers that we have, the thousands of managers that we are creating, so that we are able to utilize that talent to actually create this industry in India. Now, the past few months I've been traveling across colleges, I've met hundreds of students, and the one thing I'm realizing is that today's children don't need, all they need is the enablement, because you're already having all the ideas. You don't need ideas from me. You already have the ideas. All you need is the enablement, the ability to execute those ideas which you already have. And that's what, for example, the government has started a national quantum mission. It has a national AI mission. In all of this, the goal is to enable youngsters. For example, if you have startup ideas, if you want to build technology or build companies out of here, the goal is to enable you to do that, because that's how the growth is going to happen. Because that's how the Indian industry, the Indian ecosystem is going to be built. And that's what we need from young people like you.